Thank you for visiting our channel. Please like, share and subscribe for more exciting food videos. We've got more wild apple recipes and tips coming your way. Let's dive right into some delicious ways to cook with wild apples. Wild apple pie. Making a wild apple pie is a great way to showcase the unique flavor and texture of these delicious fruits. Here's a simple recipe to get you started. To make a wild apple pie, you'll need 6 to 8 wild apples, peeled and sliced. Half cup granulated sugar. 2 tablespoons all-purpose flour. 1 teaspoon cinnamon. 1/4 teaspoon nutmeg. 1/4 teaspoon salt. Half cup butter, cut into small pieces. 1 egg, beaten, for egg wash. 1 pie crust, homemade or store-bought. Preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. In a large bowl, combine the sliced apples, granulated sugar, flour, cinnamon, nutmeg, and salt. Mix until the apples are evenly coated with the dry ingredients. Roll out the pie crust and place it in a 9-inch pie dish. Fill the pie crust with the apple mixture and dot the top with the butter pieces. Roll out the remaining pie crust and use it to cover the pie. Crimp the edges to seal the pie and cut a few slits in the top to allow steam to escape. Brush the egg wash over the pie crust and bake for 40 to 50 minutes, or until the crust is golden brown and the apples are tender. Wild apple cider. Wild apple cider is a delicious and refreshing drink that's perfect for fall gatherings and holidays. To make wild apple cider, you'll need 3 to 4 bushels of wild apples. 1 large press or juice extractor. 1 fermenter, food-grade plastic or glass. Cheesecloth or a coffee filter. Campden tablets or potassium metabisulfite, optional. The process of pressing and fermenting wild apple cider is a bit more involved than making a pie, but it's still a fun and rewarding project. Start by washing and sorting the wild apples, removing any leaves or debris. Next, chop the apples into small pieces and feed them into the press or juice extractor. Collect the juice in a large container and strain it through cheesecloth or a coffee filter to remove any sediment. If you want to make a harder cider, you can add a small amount of sugar and yeast to the juice and ferment it in a food-grade container. Be sure to follow proper sanitation and fermentation procedures to avoid contamination and spoilage. After 2 to 3 weeks, you can rack the cider, transfer it to a new container, and bottle it. Store the cider in a cool, dark place and enjoy it within a few months. Some things to keep in mind when making wild apple cider include: use a variety of apple types for a more complex flavor profile. Monitor the acidity and sugar levels in the juice to ensure proper fermentation. Be patient and allow the cider to age and mature before drinking. Consider adding spices or other flavorings, like cinnamon or citrus, to create a unique twist on traditional cider. What's your favorite way to enjoy wild apple cider, hot or cold, sweet or dry? Do you have a favorite recipe or tradition surrounding this delicious drink? Preserving wild apples. Now that you've foraged and prepared your wild apples, you might be wondering how to preserve them for later use. There are several methods to choose from, each with its own unique benefits and drawbacks. Preserving wild apples can be a great way to enjoy them year-round and make the most of your foraging efforts. Have you ever tried canning or freezing wild apples? What are some of your favorite methods for preserving these delicious fruits? Canning wild apple butter. To make canned wild apple butter, you'll need 4 to 6 pounds of wild apples, peeled and chopped. 1/4 cup granulated sugar. 1/4 cup water. Half teaspoon cinnamon. 1/4 teaspoon nutmeg. 1/4 teaspoon salt. Half cup butter, cut into small pieces. Combine the chopped apples, granulated sugar, water, cinnamon, nutmeg, and salt in a large pot. Bring the mixture to a boil over high heat, then reduce the heat to low and simmer for 2 to 3 hours, or until the apples are tender and the mixture has thickened. Use an immersion blender to puree the mixture until smooth, or let it cool and puree it in a blender. Return the mixture to the pot and add the butter pieces. Cook over low heat, stirring constantly, until the butter has melted and the mixture is smooth. To get the wild apple butter, you'll need to sterilize your jars and lids in a pot of boiling water. Pack the hot apple butter into the jars, leaving about 1/4 inch of headspace. Remove any air bubbles, and wipe the rims with a clean cloth. Apply the lids and rings, and process the jars in a boiling water bath for 10 minutes. Let the jars cool, then check the seals and store them in a cool, dark place. Freezing wild apple slices. Freezing wild apple slices is a great way to preserve them for later use in recipes like pies, crisps, and salads. To freeze wild apple slices, start by washing and slicing the apples. You can use a mandolin or sharp knife to get thin, even slices. Next, mix the apple slices with a little bit of lemon juice to prevent browning. You can also add a splash of water or other liquid to help the apples freeze more evenly. Some popular methods for freezing wild apple slices include flash freezing. Spread the apple slices out in a single layer on a baking sheet and place it in the freezer. Once the apples are frozen solid, transfer them to airtight containers or freezer bags for storage. Tray freezing. Place the apple slices in a single layer on a tray or sheet pan, leaving a little space between each slice. Put the tray in the freezer and let the apples freeze for about an hour, or until they're frozen solid. Then, transfer the frozen apple slices to airtight containers or freezer bags for storage. Vacuum sealing. Place the apple slices in a vacuum sealable bag or container and remove as much air as possible before sealing. This will help prevent freezer burn and keep the apples fresh for longer. When freezing wild apple slices, it's essential to consider a few things, such as, use the right type of apple. Some apples are better suited for freezing than others. Look for apples that are sweet and tart, like the crabapple or wild red delicious. Slice the apples evenly. This will help the apples freeze more evenly and prevent them from becoming mushy or textureless. Remove as much air as possible. This will help prevent freezer burn and keep the apples fresh for longer. Label and date the containers. This will help you keep track of how long the apples have been frozen and ensure you use the oldest ones first. Sustainable foraging for wild apples is crucial to preserve the ecosystem and ensure a steady supply of these delicious fruits. By following proper foraging techniques and regulations, you can enjoy wild apples while protecting the environment. Remember to always check local laws and regulations before foraging, and be respectful of private property and the land. If you're interested in learning more about foraging and preserving wild apples, there are many online resources and local workshops available. You can also join foraging communities or online forums to connect with other enthusiasts and share tips and recipes. What's your favorite way to use wild apples, and do you have any tips for sustainable foraging? Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe.